Lucky you.
36 best
Tuned
holes in
into
golf.
Alternate Shots podcast,
Barney's Army.
where we talk about golf,
Sandy.
poker,
James Bond.
horse racing,
Double.
classic movies.
Zenyatta.
We have no script.
Down the stretch they
And
come.
we are glad you joined us.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Part 3, Bill Harmon. Bill, we're back. We're
Great.
looking at one of your favorite spots. It wasn't too far from where you spent some time at Wingfoot.
Really.
What's your recollection of your own personal achievement on the West Course or on the East Course? We always like to ask that. And what do you think is the toughest green to putt at Wingfoot?
Well, when I won the club championship, sounds funny. What was it, 50 some odd years ago? I was playing Bob Wilkie, who was an established player, much older than I. Of course, everybody was at the time. And in the morning, I shot 67 on the West Course.
Wow. Holy mackerel.
And
How old were you?
I was, so that was 67. I just turned 17.
Wow.
And then I won 12 and 11. It would have been over on the 8th green, I guess.
The massacre.
Or on the 7th green. And I was 3 under par on the East Course on those holes. Yeah, I was holing everything and hitting it good. And, you know, back then I didn't know anything about the golf swing. And I felt if I could reach a green, I could knock it close. Now, if I can get a pitching wedge on the green, I'm happy.
Rule game.
So the game was, there was no fear involved. I didn't know what that word meant. And so but, you know, I just have so many great memories here. You know, Bobby Christie beat me twice in the club championship, once in the juniors and once in, I think it was, maybe I was defending the men's club championship. The next year he beat me on that green. And, you know, all of my memories of Wingfoot are, I don't know. I just, like I said, it's when you get older and you realize how lucky you've been, and you start tracing why the heck did this happen. And I, you know, I have to give Waikiki credit too. You know, we were there before we came over to Wingfoot, and Waikiki was great to the Harmons, and that was a wonderful place to learn how to play golf.
Donald Ross.
Heck of a nice golf course to play. To have to hit downhill, uphill, side hill, small greens. That you could learn to play golf at Waikiki.
There was a migration of people, my dad being one, who started at Waikiki and came to Wingfoot in 68 or 69. There was a bunch of guys that did it. Yeah. He learned from Bob
Watson.
Bob Watson, I think I told you. My first 5 clubs Bob Watson gave me.
Isn't that something?
And you think about that. Do you think golf has to be played with 14 clubs?
I feel before they change the ball and all this stuff on distance, which I think should happen personally for the pros, I think the easiest thing to do is to limit the number of clubs and make it 9 for the pros. And then let's see who can be the best player.
So a driver.
But what would they take? You know, what club?
A driver, a hybrid, and 7 wedges.
There you go. That's right. That could be, but I would find it very interesting if you limited the number of clubs that they could have, or just a tournament should do it. You know, like the minor leagues did the pitch clock and the shift and stuff, and they did some research on it. So what if they did, you know, 4 Corn Ferry Tour events a year where they did 9 clubs or 10 clubs, or the tournament out in Reno that's Stableford, you know, instead of doing that, and start gathering data. I was thinking about this morning when I woke up knowing I was going to be on with you guys, that when I was at Wingfoot in 2020, the ball was running forever. The course actually played short, and only one guy broke par. But my first day, I was a spotter on 4 West. This sounds kind of crazy. I was on the right side of the fairway, and I never realized, looking back to the tee, how downhill that tee shot was. It never dawned on me when I was playing the hole, because it was always a drive and a 4-iron or something. And these guys were hitting drive and sand wedges to 4 West from 480 yards.
Unbelievable.
You know, they're hitting short irons to number 9, 600 yards. And only one guy broke par. And so, and I think 6 over might have been in the top 10, by the way. But that's a joke to hit a drive in a 9-iron to a 600-yard par 5, isn't it? That's not right. I don't care how big you are and all that stuff. That's not golf. And I don't really enjoy watching pro golf today because every hole is a drive and a wedge, and every par 5 is a drive and a 7-iron.
Right.
Except on a par 3. So I like watching I hate the course at Bay Hill, but I like the fact that it's hard and that guys have to make some pars coming in. You know, they actually have to perform and put the ball in the fairway and hit the green. I'm not blaming the players. The players are fantastic. They're really good. I just
Augusta kind of stands up to
something's going wrong here. I don't know what it is, but the game shouldn't be this easy.
You mentioned Bay Hill. I think of it's 16, right? The short par 5.
Yes.
And I think of what they do to that hole with it. You know, it's a different story when there's a lot of wind, but I always think of Payne Stewart because that was his house behind the green.
That's correct.
You must have some stories with Payne Stewart. I was fortunate enough to get played with him on a Monday Pro-Am one time down here in Miami. That was just pure luck. And he was wearing pants then. And he shot the easiest 66 you'd ever see in your life. And I said, and he was new. You know, he had to qualify on Mondays. And I said, wow, this is something here you don't see every day.
He had
right?
kind of a throwback swing. You know, he was a swinger, not a hitter, lifted his left heel, didn't do any of the modern stuff. But Payne was a winner. You know, he was a guy that, you know, there's an expression at that level, golf swings don't win tournaments, people win tournaments. You know, and so he won 3 majors. You know, when he got into the hunt, he was a show off, you know, by the way he dressed and everything. And show offs usually do better, you know, when the bright lights of the stage hit him. So he was an interesting character. You know, early on, he wasn't very well liked. I didn't know many players that liked him. He could be kind of acidic. I think towards the end of his career, he mellowed quite a bit. My only real, I had kind of quit caddying by the time he became real good. But we were playing with him at Abilene, the Legit Classic. So this is a story that comes to mind. And he drove it in the left rough on the 18th hole. And he had tree trouble. There weren't a lot of leaves. There were just these branches. And he kept taking these practice swings. And it really inhibited his backswing. And you guys play enough. Let's say there's a limb that makes you shorten your backswing 50%. You know, and you take 20 practice swings and 20 practice swings. And when it finally comes to the ball, you hit the limb in your swing. You do it almost every single time.
Yeah.
He hit the limb in his swing and it directed the club and he whiffed it. And without missing a beat, he screamed as loud as he could, "Strike one." And so I never forgot that. There were 2 things about it. It was guttural and it was real, but it was also, I was trying to hit the ball. That was the stroke. There was no cheating involved, you know. So right away it was like, add one. So I'll never forget the way he did it. He wasn't even upset. He brought humor to it. And so that's my Payne Stewart, but I didn't really know him. You know, I don't know if I ever had a conversation with Payne Stewart.
One thing that Billy Regan and I have talked about is when you're Paul Tesori caddying for Webb Simpson or Cam Young. So this week you're in Texas at the Valero Open. Next week is the Masters.
Yeah.
How's that like? I mean, some of these guys have net jets. Do you get invited on the jet? Do you have to get to the place?
Well, there were no net jets.
Right.
Net jets when I was out there. We just had, Robin and I had our big Harmon recovery fundraiser last week, and at our little party the night before the golf, we had Julie Inkster, Jay, Billy Andrade, Tom Percher, and Joe Durant did a little Q&A. And Jay mentioned sarcastically that you know, it was very difficult early on when he started playing the tour in the early 70s, you know, when the jet showed up about 15 minutes late and the champagne wasn't quite chilled properly on the flight home after missing the cut. Of course, he was being sarcastic because it wasn't that way back when they started. And my question to them was, I always like to ask questions that they haven't heard before, because, you know, these guys have been playing, and Julie have been playing competitive golf 40, 50 years. And I asked them what their lowest point was when they knew that they weren't good enough anymore, because they all go through it, by the way. You know, we're talking about Justin Thomas, who, you know, if he finishes 15th, we think he's had a bad week, because they've all gone through it. And so it was very interesting listening to, you know, in the middle of a slump, how down they got and everything. And so Julie Inkster's, she went first, and hers was fantastic. She talked about, you know, she'd won 3 US amateurs in a row, I believe. She was, but she was a mother. Back then, there were no daycare centers, and she was playing bad. And she said, just think of this. I was a bad mom, a bad wife, and a bad golfer all at the same time. And it was so enlightening because she kind of uncovered herself. And it was very interesting listening to these people when they were going bad. So asking me if I ever got on a net jet from the Valero tournament. No, we drove through the night, unfortunately with some help probably. But you know, back then that was kind of the fun of it to me. I look back on, I think we all look back on days in our lives when we had nothing, but we didn't know any different. So you just get it done. And so I look back in the caddy days when I started, we didn't make any money. Nobody really had any money, but we all took care of each other and we traveled together. And I thought it was the time of my life. I was having a great time. So you know, when you work at nice clubs like I do, and you see people that supposedly have everything. And for my value system, some of them have nothing. They got houses and they got this, but they don't have happiness. So I don't look at, you know, my gifts in life come wrapped in different packages, and they're not things, they're experiences and stuff. So I like listening to how it was before people got good or before they became successful, because everybody had to go through issues and problems and stuff. And Jay Haas's comment was interesting. He said, I never wanted to get comfortable. I wasn't good enough to be comfortable. I'd have an edge all the time. I'd always be striving because players are coming up that are probably better than me, and I got to ward them off. So this thing had, he said, getting comfortable playing with Jack or Tiger or Trevino, that's a different question to me. That happened early with me because he played with Miller the third round of the Open at Wingfoot in 74. The next year he played with Jack the third round of the Open at Medina, both of these as an amateur. And his first round at the Masters as an amateur, he played with Arnold. So he's already been thrown into this fire before he turned pro. But so I kind of got off on your question. No, it wasn't there. We drove through the night. That's why I get a kick out of players say I get tired playing 3-4 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
I get it. That really gets me. Now at our club, everything is carts. And one of my students will say, boy, I really played good on the front nine. I shot 39 and I got tired on the back nine. So how the hell do you get tired riding in a cart? I don't get that. Is the pedal heavier on the back nine or something? How the hell do you get tired riding in a cart on the back nine? You got to explain that one to me, you know, because I don't get that. Now, if you're playing a 36-hole match, I can see, you know, slowing down the last 9, but this, you know, you're riding in a cart with a Rolls Royce hood on it or something, and you're getting tired, you know, and you got a bucket full of drinks in there, and I don't know. That's just
It's like,
how
it's
about
like
you just didn't
baseball
play
players
good?
today.
Huh?
It's like the baseball players today. I don't understand how they get tired. They basically stand still for a whole game, sit on the bench half the game, and run 90 feet every now and then.
I spent an evening one time with Koufax. He was my only real sports hero I ever had. I don't know why.
What a
I
pitcher
wasn't a
he is.
Yankee fan. I was a Dodger fan, Brooklyn Dodger fan. And Koufax was a guy, and I ended up being at an outing, and I had dinner with him. And I said, I love baseball. And I said, your last 2 years, you threw 54 complete games his last 2 seasons.
Oh,
54. I think Scherzer, your guy for the Mets now, might have a total of 20 in his career. In his career.
Koufax pitched 1 year, 326 innings with 372 strikeouts. That's like 2 years for these guys
That's
now.
correct. And he was great. He said, listen, nowadays they pay the young pitchers so much money, you have to protect your investment.
Their products.
Drysdale and I were the first people that ever held out for 100,000 apiece. So, but he said, we had an unwritten rule. If you were leading a game, they wouldn't take you out. So I could be up 6-5 in the 5th inning, and they would let you try to win that game. So he wasn't in any way, shape, or form, that these kids aren't this, that, whatever. But to your point, Bill, it is interesting what makes these new golfers tired. Bob Golby had a 3-year stretch where he played 39, 39, and 42 tournaments.
wow.
And now if they play, well, God, I got to play these 3 FedEx Cups in a row,
Right.
That's terrible for $25 million a tournament. God, that's hard. It does get a little bit much, doesn't it? Come on.
Age might have some. I mean, I get tired after 3 or 4 days in a row now at my age. But when I was younger, my cousin and I would every June 21st we'd play Siwanoy, Wingfoot, and Stanwich in the same day.
You are an addict. Look at
And we were making our last 18 at Siwanoy, and I'm running into the grill to get some Gatorades, and my cousin is getting the bags all set up, and I run into a guy in there. He goes, "You making the turn?" I said, "Yeah, sort of."
So, I haven't seen this. This is the week coming up where the quote unquote live players, the guys got fired from the PGA Tour, are coming together. Since it was the British Open, I think is the last time they all met up. What do you think about that?
That should be an interesting locker room.
I've said this, that well before Live, not every Masters champion liked each other. And nothing ever came out of the dinners because they play with each other all the time. And so I think the media has helped create this discord amongst the players. And a couple of the players, I think, probably could have avoided the issues. I don't think it's going to be that big a deal on a 1-to-1 level. I really don't. I really believe that the Champions Dinner. Now, I'm a little surprised at Freddie, to be honest with you, how vocal he's been. I don't know why. I don't know why he became the spokesman. I'm not saying I disagree with everything he said, but why do you have to? The Champions Dinner should be about Scotty Scheffler, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And if I were Freddie and advising him, which I wouldn't be asked to advise him, first thing I do is I go up and shake Phil's hand. Hey, Phil, how you doing? Sergio, how are you? Just be a gentleman. That's all. And I really don't think there's going to be much problem golf-wise because they play with people they don't like all the time. That just happens in golf. I think that the bigger question to me is I just don't think the media is going to leave it alone.
Absolutely not.
And I really think that most players are going to say something to the extent, we've beaten this thing to death. Let's talk about the Masters. But they're going to keep hounding and hounding and hounding until they get that sound bite, and someone's going to, basically give it to them. And I realize it. And if one of the live players wins, it kind of turns pro golf upside down, really.
Yep.
So, and you got to believe that in one of the 4 majors, it's not out of the question that one of them will win it.
You get a little tradition, you get history. The live gets some history, right?
So
all you have to do is look at the odds. I'm sure the FanDuels and all these other places are going to show you that they think one of them is going to win it, whether it's Dustin Johnson or Cam
Dustin
Smith.
Johnson, who has stayed totally above the fray, he's still Secretariat physically.
Yeah, Cam Smith is,
And he's already won there, so it's not like and Dustin isn't someone that gets involved in all this stuff. Cam Smith is, world class, and and they do have a little bit of a burr. I'm sure they have a little bit of more interest. Now the question is, will that make them play better or worse?
Right.
Because Augusta is a kind of course where you have to make a lot of good decisions and calm and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's a kind of course that you can play with your hair on fire. So it'll be very interesting to watch. I mean, let's face it, we're golf fans. We love the game. And with all this stuff that's going on, here they are again. What are there, 16 or 17 live players in the tournament?
Yeah, I counted them up. I think your number's about right.
So but I think that when the Masters dinner is over, that my sense is that they'll all say it was good. It was fine. And I think you'd have to be a real jerk to go in there and be a jerk in that dinner, to be honest with you.
yeah, these are just people who made life choices, agree or disagree with them. It's just choices.
I've said from day one, I don't, anybody that took the money, I get it. I just personally have no interest in the tour. None. I haven't watched one shot. To me, it's a glorified Discovery property member guest on steroids is all it is to me.
I keep saying, yeah, if you need the money or you want the money, that's fine. But if you win a live tournament, really, who cares?
I don't care. I haven't watched one shot on, I think I saw a replay of Dustin Johnson making a 30-footer to win one of the tournaments in Boston in a playoff. But other than that, I haven't seen anything and I don't care about it. And nor do I dislike the players that, when I caddied for Mike Gilmore the last round of the US Open in 2020 when he was a marker, he played with Abraham Ancher. And I thought Abraham Ancher was one of the coolest guys I ever met in my life. I loved him. Terrific guy. Unbelievably good guy. So just because he goes to live, that's going to wipe out my memory of those 18 holes? No, it doesn't. He's a good guy.
What I remember about him is the prior 2 years, he was always on that leaderboard that NBC or CBS would put up there. The guy was just pesky. He was there.
He's unbelievably pesky with a fantastic short game. So he can, and he cuts it, which is interesting because my dad had this kind of figured out years ago. Everyone used to say Augusta was a hooker's course, and he said, yeah, but all the trouble's on the left. Demerit was a fader. He won 3. Nicklaus was a fader. He won 6. So this notion that you have to hook the ball at Augusta, but almost every hole, jail is on the left, other than 18 that I can think of.
I was thinking about this discussion, and I don't know how I thought this. The front 9 of Augusta, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 are par 4s. 1, 3. I never played a golf course where it's like that. That maybe that's also makes it kind of cool. Not that we see every angle of it on TV, but the way the architect laid it out. And then there's a par 5 and a par 3, like stuck to each other, etc. on the back 9.
Yeah, 12 and 13 and 15 and 16. I always thought one of the oddities in golf is that every double green at St. Andrews, if you add up the number of what the hole is, it always came to 18. It's true.
Yeah.
The second green
and
has the 16th, 3. And so this happened when back then they only had a 12-hole course, right? And then they somehow
expanded it.
So how could that be that these 7 double greens all add up to 18? I don't know. It's just one of those things in life. You go, how could that possibly be?
Somebody thought about that so that you would think about it 100 and 200 years later.
That's right. That's right. I come up with some really important stuff.
Hopefully your score doesn't add up to 18 on those.
Well, not either one of them. That's right. That's right. That's right.
I don't know if you want to talk about this. The back injury of Zalatoris. There's other players that have had this. I see that Berger, he lives about a mile from me. I see him. He's trying to get back from the back injury. And now I see this new friend of ours, Brandon Matthews, he pulled out of the tournament this week, back injury. What about that?
Well, what I know about physical fitness would not fit into a thimble, so I can't say that I have a qualified opinion on it. But I have a son who's runs a fitness center at Castle Pines and outside of Denver. And I asked him one time, I said, as you know, your dad knows nothing about this stuff. But if you put a Ferrari engine into a Volkswagen body and you didn't fortify the foundation of the Volkswagen, would it work? And he said, of course not. So I believe that physical fitness kind of hit golf late. And for many years, the players were guinea pigs to what was right and what was wrong. Because I always thought physical fitness should keep you from being injured. That would be my guess. So I wonder if these kids got too big, too strong, too fast for the human body to. And then most people will tell you that the body and the golf swing are very unnatural things. They don't really go together. And so I don't really know, but all I know is that the players from when we grew up weren't injured like this. None of them, really. And now we get all these young guys injured. And
Throughout sports.
I'm not too sure that my analogy is wrong about the Ferrari and the Volkswagen body. And a lot of people want to say the inverted C, but there were a lot of great players that had the inverted C that didn't get injured. I never had a back problem in my life, and I grew up in that era. In fact, I played better doing that stuff. And so I think maybe some people don't have good backs, maybe. But I'm not sold on that the body can handle all this speed in the quarter of a second that the downswing occurs. From the time you start down to impact is a quarter of a second, and a guy's generating 120 miles an hour clubhead speed in a quarter of a second. I don't know enough about it, but it seems to me there's something that's not right there.
Bill Harmon, we're lucky to be on this live with you. We're editing maybe a
Not
little.
as lucky as me. I got news for you.
Oh, let me tell you something. I wish other people would have the opportunity to have the live discussion with you. It goes back to the Masters again. We're to me, there's no sporting event that even close to this. The Super Bowl, okay, but it's different place every year.
How about the women's amateur today?
Right. How good is this Rosa Zhang?
How about that event in 4 years has become almost the premier women's amateur golf tournament in the world?
Who gets
It's
more?
it's so well thought of. I mean, they qualify a champions retreat, but they do not deprive any of them for a round at Augusta, whether they make the cut or not.
And I can't wait to watch it today, to be honest with you. I've loved watching it, and I think about how fortunate I've been to walk the fairways as a caddy. Obviously to have a dad that won, but to play there like I have played there a few times, and now to see these ladies playing, it's just incredible what they've done, and I love watching it. And the one thing about the female players and the ones on the LPGA tour, they're uncanny straight hitters. Unbelievable the quality of their golf. I think a few years ago they had their PGA championship at Westchester Country Club. And they tore it up because they hit it straight, you see. That's not a tight course for them. So I think that as we watch the future of the game today, their play is incredible how good they are. And to see them do it at Augusta and hit those shots, it'd be interesting to see if there was a 15 to 20 mile per hour wind there. And the greens got hard and fast. It would be sporty, but the quality of that event, I think, has been so interesting, and it goes in line with how they run the real Masters, actually.
Well,
and it speaks a lot to the course itself.
Yes,
course, the way
everybody wants to watch Augusta get played by almost anybody. I think I'd watch a foursome play if it was on TV.
No, I think you're right. I mean, if they wanted to open that to the public, they'd get 100,000 people, but 95 of them would be there just to see Augusta National, not really golf. Right. But they've created that mystique, and they've created that in a pretty
But they are doing a hell of a lot for women's golf.
for an organization that seems to get criticized a lot for maybe not being good in those areas, but they know how to do things, and they seem to be oblivious to criticism, which I like. But critics by and large shoot up, they don't shoot down. So if you're being criticized, it probably means you're pretty good.
That's right. Who's your dope out the betting form for the Masters? Okay, as Billy would say in a racing term, who do you like this week coming up?
Oh, about 3 months ago, I put $100 on Dustin Johnson at 26-1. If I had to, I think it's real hard. I think Scotty Scheffler, he has everything for that course, his short game, but Scotty seems to have to be born with very good nerves. He doesn't seem to ever look uncomfortable. I remember a few years ago when he was a rookie, he was in the last group of DJ at the Harding Park in the PGA. I think he shot 70 or 71. He certainly didn't choke.
No.
The announcer said he won 90 junior tournaments. So winners are winners. So anytime you win a tournament, doesn't make any difference the level. You still have to hit that 8-iron on the green, make par on the last hole. And so he's used to winning. I think Scheffler is, for my money, if I had to bet on it, because you can't, betting on golf is it's hard to figure that one out. But I think he's got all the tools, I would say.
Certainly got the right temperament.
Everything. His short game, his temperament, he seems so comfortable in that position. And I love his old school swing. I love all that slashing and stuff that he does. And his short game is great. He handles himself beautifully. And I'm a big Scotty fan.
He seems to have like you could have been his teacher, because he it's clear that there are other things in life that are equally important to him.
Well, you got to give
Not
Randy
just his
Smith a
golf
lot
game.
of credit. His teacher, Randy, doesn't get enough credit. He works with a lot of good players, and because he's not Tarzan beating his chest all the time, he doesn't get all the attention that he should. But he gets my attention. I tend to gravitate towards the ones that don't beat their own chest.
Well, Scheffler, I think back the last year. I think the last time Scheffler was really out of play was on that third hole where he hit the scoreboard, got a little drop, and then whatever happened after that. But I haven't seen him out of play like that in a year. He seems to put it in play and long.
Well, I don't know. He just seems to have everything. And I think that, every now and then a course comes up or a player comes up, and that course just seems to fit. He has all the qualities to play well there for a long time. So he's playing good right now. So, Rory, the only thing about Rory, obviously the Grand Slam puts a little pressure on him. And I think Scheffler's naturally a good putter. I think Rory is a fabricated kind of good putter. It's not natural for him. And so he works at it, and has worked with Brad Faxon, I think has been great. But boy, you're going to have to make some tough putts to win the Masters. It's like at Winged Foot. You get behind the hole on 6 East and the pin's over on the left, and you got an 8-footer that breaks 6 feet on the green that's now running 15. Anything less than a perfect putt will not go in.
And you're chipping.
Exactly. And so I think that that's the one thing I would say about Rory. I'm a big Rory fan. I like him a lot. I think he's unbelievable talent. But I think he has to really go through mental gymnastics to be a good putter, and I don't think Scheffler does.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I sort of noticed that about Adam Scott.
He was never a good putter.
Yeah.
Nah, never a good putter. Born good putter. You can make yourself a decent putter, but I don't know if you'll ever be better than the ones that are born good at it.
You're gonna be asked this question in a month when you're at the Centennial or you're at Winged Foot.
Yeah.
The one thing, you get one thing to talk about when it pertains to the 100. Now we're going into 101st year at Winged Foot. What's the one thing that you'll always want to be thinking about your relationship with Winged Foot?
I think Winged Foot in this country has been the most influential club in the history of American golf because of its relationships with the golf pros, and it's a golf club. And all the people that Winged Foot has mentored, all these young kids that come and go on to be great pros at every other club in the country, and then they branch out from there. I believe Winged Foot has changed the course of golf more than any club in America. When you look at the pros that they've had, assistant pros, and gone on to be great pros and great players all over the place. And I remember when I was there last time asking some of the pros, how often do you play? They go, 3-4 times a week. I don't play 3 or 4 times a season, you know. And so another little feather in your cap, you know, Katie, PGA Merchandiser of the Year. She came there as a 22-year-old intern, right? Now she's a PGA Merchandiser of the Year. That says a lot for the club. That says a lot for the people there. So I think Winged Foot has influenced golf, not modern day golf the way it is now, because clubs are different. And I get all that. I work at one that's different. But Winged Foot has had more influence on the real golfers, in my opinion, than any club I've ever been around. Nothing's even close to it. But it's a golf club, and it's revered and it's respected, and they allow the pros to be golf pros. Most people didn't turn pro to fold shirts, you know.
And it did all of that without a driving range.
Unbelievable. The worst driving range.
This has been extra special, Billy.
Thanks,
I don't
guys.
know how it could be extra special after we did the 3 episodes earlier last year. I just, you keep amazing. And we have so many people that are asking us, when's Billy coming back on?
Well, I can't wait to get back. I'm the lefty you can bring out of the bullpen when you don't have any other guests.
Well,
we want a lesson in the bunker, one-handed lesson.
When I get back, we're going to do it. Winged Foot has influenced golf, not modern day golf the way it is now, because clubs are different. And I get all that. I work at one that's different. But Winged Foot has had more influence on the real golfers, in my opinion, than any club I've ever been around. Nothing's even close to it.
Thanks for joining us today.
Billy Harmon.
We really appreciate your
Double
feedback.
Indemnity.
And please
Arky.
subscribe to the show and hit
Claude
the bell
Harmon.
icon so you get notified.
Movie Classics.
New episodes.
Mark Gable.
Hit them
Odd
hard
Job.
and hit them off.
Best 36 holes.